Good morning, everyone. Today, we're going to explore the current state of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the significant challenges Israel is facing due to this ongoing crisis. Additionally, we'll delve into the domestic and international pressures affecting Prime Minister Netanyahu. Let's begin with the recent escalation of violence in Gaza. On March 18th, Israel resumed large-scale airstrikes and ground operations in Gaza, effectively ending a 2-month ceasefire that had begun on January 19, 2025. The strikes have resulted in the deaths of over 510 Palestinians since March 17, including at least 80 fatalities in a single wave of attacks on March 20th. The targeted areas include Gaza City in the north, Deir el-Balah in the central region, and Rafah in the south. Israel claims its operations aim to establish a buffer zone along the Netzarim corridor, effectively dividing Gaza. Meanwhile, Hamas has fired rockets into Israel for the first time since the ceasefire collapsed, though most were intercepted by Israel's defense systems. The humanitarian impact of these military actions is profound. Gaza's health ministry reports that over 50% of the casualties are women and children. Hospitals are overwhelmed, with many victims trapped under rubble due to strikes on residential areas. Israel ordered evacuations in northern Gaza, but displacement routes remain unsafe due to ongoing bombardment. This situation highlights the dire conditions faced by civilians in conflict zones and underscores the urgent need for humanitarian intervention. Moving on to the regional crisis and international reactions, it's clear that the breakdown of ceasefire negotiations has significant implications. Hamas accuses Israel of unilaterally abandoning the ceasefire, claiming it had agreed to release 60 remaining hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners and a permanent truce. Israel rejected this proposal, demanding an extension of the initial ceasefire terms. The U.S. under President Trump and Qatar mediated earlier talks, but recent U.S. statements appear to endorse Israel's military escalation. This shift in U.S. policy has been met with skepticism by many international observers who worry about the potential for further destabilization in the region. The global response to these developments has been varied. Hamas has called the strikes a death sentence for Israeli hostages and urged mediators to intervene. Arab states have condemned the attacks but have limited leverage due to internal divisions and U.S. support for Israel. The United Nations has warned of a potential famine in Gaza, with 85% of the population displaced and aid access restricted. These reactions highlight the complex geopolitical dynamics at play and the challenges faced by international organizations in addressing humanitarian crises. Now let's turn to Netanyahu's domestic crisis. His government relies heavily on far-right parties, including Otzma Yehudit, led by Itamar Ben-Gvir, and religious Zionism, led by Bezalel Smotrich, which demand continued military action in Gaza. These groups rejoined the coalition after the ceasefire collapsed, providing Netanyahu with the necessary support to maintain his 68-seat majority in the 120-seat Knesset. However, Netanyahu faces a March 31st deadline to pass Israel's 2025 budget. Failure to do so would trigger elections, which could jeopardize his political future. Public unrest and security challenges are also mounting. Thousands of Israelis are demonstrating against Netanyahu's dismissal of Shin Bet chief Ronen Bar, seen as an attempt to weaken oversight of his government. Bar's removal is expected to finalize on March 20th. Additionally, families of hostages accuse Netanyahu of prioritizing military objectives over hostage negotiations. Only 33 hostages, 25 alive, were freed in the first ceasefire phase, leaving many families frustrated and demanding more effective action from the government. Netanyahu also faces legal and security pressures. He is embroiled in corruption charges and faces public blame for intelligence failures preceding Hamas's October 7, 2023, attack. The Shin Bet's internal report criticized his policy of allowing Qatari funds to flow to Hamas pre-war. Military leaders and security officials oppose Netanyahu's strategy, arguing that Hamas remains intact and no post-war governance plan exists. This lack of strategic clarity has led to significant criticism from within Israel's security establishment. Internationally, Netanyahu is facing increasing isolation. while President Trump supports Netanyahu's hardline stance, contrasting with the Biden administration's earlier push for a ceasefire. U.S. officials privately express frustration over Netanyahu's refusal to outline a credible post-war strategy. Normalization talks with Saudi Arabia have stalled, as Arab states demand irreversible steps toward Palestinian statehood as a precondition, which Netanyahu's coalition rejects. Iran-backed groups such as Hezbollah and the Houthis continue low-intensity attacks on Israel, raising risks of a broader regional war. Finally, let's consider the implications and outlook for this situation. The humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza is deepening, with infrastructure decimated and reconstruction impossible under ongoing strikes. Netanyahu's gamble to restart the war may secure short-term coalition stability, but deepens long-term risks, including mass protests and potential ICC war crimes investigations. The cycle of violence risks drawing in Lebanon, Yemen, and Iran, further destabilizing the region.